Eye of the storm. The first time I met August Beaumont, I was trying to evacuate Charleston before Category 4 Hurricane Iris made landfall, and he was refusing to leave a 300-year-old house that was about to collapse. I'd been deployed to Charleston as part of NOAA's Hurricane Research Division, tracking Iris's approach, coordinating with emergency management, making sure evacuation orders were being followed. The mandatory evacuation had been issued 6 hours ago. Most of the historic district was empty, but my handheld weather station was pinging an anomaly at a building on Rainbow Row, and when I pulled up, someone was still inside. "This is a mandatory evacuation!" I shouted through the wind, rain already starting to hammer down. "You need to leave NOW!" The front door opened. A man emerged, tall, lean, wearing expensive-looking clothes that were completely impractical for a hurricane. Sandy brown hair already getting soaked, green eyes that looked at me with the kind of calm that suggested he'd never been told no in his life. "I'm aware of the evacuation order, Doctor." His accent was pure Charleston aristocracy, slow and precise. "Park, Cameron Park, NOAA Hurricane Research." I pulled out my tablet, showed him the radar. Hurricane Iris is Category 4. Storm surge predicted at 12 to 15 feet. Sustained winds 140 miles per hour. This building is in the flood zone. You need to evacuate. This building is the Beaumont House, built in 1723, one of the oldest continuously inhabited private residences in Charleston. He gestured behind him. "I'm August Beaumont. My family has owned this house for 300 years. I'm a historic preservation architect, and I'm documenting structural details before the storm. I'll leave when I'm finished." "You'll leave now or you'll die here." The wind was picking up, rain turning horizontal. "Mr. Beaumont, August, please." "August, I don't care how old this house is. Hurricane Iris is going to tear it apart. Your documentation won't matter if you're dead. This house has survived 13 hurricanes. She'll survive another." But he was looking at my tablet, at the storm track, and I saw the moment his certainty wavered. "How long until landfall?" 4 hours. Maybe less if the storm accelerates." I checked my station readings. The structural sensors I planted earlier are already showing stress on this block. Your house is old construction. Single brick walls. Original timber framing. She might have survived 13 hurricanes, but this one's different." "How different?" "Category 4 with rapid intensification. Worst storm to hit Charleston in 50 years. I met his eyes. "August, I know this house matters to you, but your life matters more. Please, evacuate." He looked at the house, at the storm, at me. Then, "I need 15 minutes to secure the most valuable architectural documentation. Can you give me that?" "I can give you 10. Then we're leaving, whether you're finished or not." "Deal." I followed him inside, and immediately understood why he was so desperate to document it. The Beaumont house was stunning. Original heart pine floors, hand-carved mantels, plasterwork that belonged in a museum. August moved through it with practiced efficiency, photographing details, making notes, his hands steady despite the storm bearing down on us. "This molding is original Federal period," he said, camera clicking. "This plasterwork is irreplaceable. If the house is damaged, these photos could help restoration." The building shuddered. A sound like thunder, but worse. Structural timber creaking under stress. "That's not good," I said, checking my readings. "Winds hitting sustained gale force. We need to go. Now." 2 more rooms. NOW, August. He grabbed his camera bag and we ran for the door. Didn't make it. The building shuddered again. Massive, violent. I heard timber snap, saw the ceiling crack, grabbed August and pulled him under the strongest door frame I could see as part of the second floor collapsed into the first. When the dust settled, we were trapped. The front door was blocked by debris. The back door was in a section of the house that no longer had a roof, and Hurricane Iris was still 3 hours from landfall. "Are you hurt?" I asked, doing a quick check. No blood, both of us breathing. "No. You?" August was pale, but steady. "Fine. But we have a problem." I pulled out my phone. No signal. Buildings were blocking it, or the storm was interfering. Radio was crackling static. We're trapped in a structurally compromised building with a Cat 4 hurricane incoming. So we shelter in place. He was already moving, assessing the space. This room? It's the original keeping room, built into the foundation. Brick walls on 3 sides, no windows. If we can secure it. You want to ride out a Category 4 hurricane in a house that just partially collapsed? Do we have better options? He had a point. We spent the next hour fortifying that room with everything we could find. Mattresses against the door, furniture bracing the walls, anything to create a safe space in a disintegrating building. August worked with a kind of focused determination I recognized because I'd seen it in myself during research deployments. You really love this house, I said, helping him secure a heavy armoire against a weak point. It's not just a house. It's 3 centuries of my family's history. My great-great-great-grandfather's carpentry work. My great-grandmother's plaster restoration. Every generation has added something, preserved something. He paused, looking around. I know it sounds crazy to someone who studies weather data, but this building she's alive to me, and I'm watching her die. The emotion in his voice was raw, real. It doesn't sound crazy. I study hurricanes because they're these massive, powerful systems that we barely understand. You study buildings because they're these intricate, meaningful structures that tell human stories. Different languages, same passion. He looked at me, really looked, for the first time. You get it. Yeah, I get it. The storm hit 2 hours later. Category 4 winds, sustained at 140 miles per hour, storm surge flooding the first floor. The building screamed, timber cracked, windows shattered. August and I huddled in that keeping room, wedged between furniture and mattresses, while the house tried to tear itself apart around us. Tell me something, August said during a brief lull, both of us exhausted and scared. Why hurricanes? Why study something that destroys everything? Because understanding them saves lives. Every model I improve, every prediction I refine. That's more warning time, better evacuation decisions, fewer deaths. I shifted position, tried to get more comfortable. Why preservation? Why save old buildings? Because they're proof we were here. Proof that people built beautiful things, created homes, left legacies. When we lose historic buildings, we lose part of our collective memory. He smiled slightly. Plus, the architecture is gorgeous, even when it's collapsing around you. Especially then. He was close enough now that I could see green eyes even in the dim emergency lighting. Cameron, can I ask you something personal? We're trapped in a hurricane. Might as well. Are you seeing anyone? My heart did something complicated. No, the research schedule makes it impossible. Deployments, storm chasing, data collection. You. No, the preservation work makes it impossible. Long hours, constant travel, buildings that need more attention than people. He shifted closer. I've been trying to figure something out for the last 3 hours. What? Whether you're as attractive as you seem, or if it's just the saved my life during building collapse thing. I laughed despite everything. Have you figured it out? Both. His shoulder brushed mine. Definitely both. Which is complicated because you're a hurricane researcher who'll leave when the storm passes, and I'm a preservationist who can't leave this city. Or, I said, it's not complicated. 2 people who understand that the work comes first, who get why risking everything for what you love isn't crazy. Someone like a meteorologist. Someone exactly like a meteorologist. I was close enough now to smell rain and old house dust on him. August, I should tell you, I'm terrible at relationships. I'm gone for months during hurricane season. I miss everything for deployments. I've been told I care more about storms than people. Do you? Sometimes, yeah. That's not terrible. His hand found mine in the dark. That's just, you haven't met someone who understands. Someone who also can't leave their work. I kissed him there in that keeping room while the building cracked around us, and a Category 4 hurricane tried to tear Charleston apart. His lips were dusty and perfect, his hand coming up to my face, and everything about him was careful and sure despite the chaos. When we broke apart, the storm was still raging, but somehow it felt less terrifying. That was, August started. Yeah. We should survive this first, then definitely. The hurricane passed. The Beaumont House was damaged, badly, but that keeping room held. August's fortification worked. When emergency crews finally reached us 8 hours after landfall, we were exhausted, dehydrated, and alive. "You two are insane," the rescue captain said. "Sheltering in a compromised structure during a Cat 4. "It was the only option," I said, helping August out through the debris. "Still insane." But he was grinning. "Glad you made it." Outside, Charleston was changed. Trees down, buildings damaged, flooding everywhere. But also resilient. Already recovering. The city had survived worse. It would survive this. August stood looking at his family's house. Roof partially gone, second floor collapsed, water damage throughout. 3 centuries of history, fundamentally altered in one night. "I'm sorry," I said, standing beside him. "She held where it mattered, kept us alive." He turned to look at me. That room, the keeping room, it did exactly what it was built for 300 years ago. Kept people safe during storms. My ancestors built well. They did. I took his hand. "August, what happens now? With us?" "What do you want to happen?" "I want to see you again. When I'm not deployed. If you want that." "I want that. More than..." He stopped, started again. "Cameron, I know this is fast. I know we met 12 hours ago during an evacuation, but I think I'm falling for you." "I'm definitely falling for you." I pulled him close despite the rescue workers watching. "Even though you tried to die in a 300-year-old house." "She's 301 years old, technically." "That doesn't make it better." "Doesn't make it worse either." He was smiling. "Cameron, I love you. I know that's insane." "I love you too. Also insane. But let's be insane together. Hurricane season doesn't stop for relationships. Neither does historic preservation. But we made it work. My deployments and his restoration projects, texts from storm zones, calls from construction sites. I started timing my research to include Charleston surveys. August started following hurricane patterns, understanding my work the way I learned about federal period architecture. 10 months after Hurricane Iris, I stood with August in the restored keeping room of the Beaumont House. The rest of the house was still under renovation. Years of work ahead. But this room was perfect, exactly as it had been when it saved our lives. "You know what's funny?" August said, looking around. "What?" "If Hurricane Iris hadn't hit, we never would have met. Are you glad your family's house almost collapsed?" "I'm glad that when it almost collapsed, you were there to save me, and then save me again, and then keep saving me." He turned to face me. "Cameron, I've been thinking." "Oh no. Hear me out." He pulled a small box from his pocket. "I know it's fast. I know we've only known each other 10 months, but I've never been more sure of anything." He opened the box. Simple silver band, elegant and perfect. "Will you marry me?" I stared. At him, at the ring, at the room that had kept us alive. Yes, obviously yes. He kissed me there in that keeping room, historic and restored and full of history we just added to. When we broke apart, both grinning like idiots, he said, "Want to know something else?" "Always." "I'm naming this room after you. The Cameron Park Keeping Room. So 300 years from now, someone will know that this room saved a hurricane researcher who saved me." That's incredibly sappy. You love it? I really do. 10 months after meeting during a hurricane, standing in a 301-year-old house with a preservationist who understood obsession and dedication and the specific kind of love you can have for work that consumes you, I realized something. Sometimes the worst storms bring the best endings. Sometimes the person who won't evacuate becomes the person worth staying for. That's not a bad story. That's the best story.